So today is the day to see how bad that Kirby Tradition is on the inside. Now don't forget everything you use in the video today. There are links in the description below for the best place to get those Kirby products. Make sure you check those out at the end of this video. Hi Kirby fans, welcome back to the channel. Now in the previous video we did a CFM test on that unrefurbished Kirby. Well today we're going to get it stripped down and then a following video we'll get it cleaned. But let's jump in to see how good it is on the inside after 45 years. Now before we can start stripping this down, you've got to remember it's at least 45 years old. So the bolts are probably going to be a little bit corroded, a little bit rusty. So there's a few things you're going to need. Obviously I'm going to soak this and then I'll come back to it when I've done that. Now what I tend to use is CRC. I will put a link in the description of where to get this from, or an alternative that works really well, because you need something that's going to penetrate into those bolts and dissolve that rust. So the issues that we're going to have rust with obviously are going to be the wheels, and the next one is probably going to be this spline, depending on how long it's been on there. So we'll jump in and have a look at what tools we need. So with the Tradition, basically you're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. You can use an impact driver as well, but there's more than likely you're going to round stuff off because it's been rusted and corroded. Also, we're going to want something to penetrate into that rust. Now for this video, I'm using CRC. I will put a link down below of where to get this from, or an alternative. You're also going to need a pair of grips. You're probably wondering why. Because we're changing that fan, I like to use grips because that fan's coming out anyway, and I just find it a lot easier to release older fans when they're corroded. Also, you're going to need a Stanley knife or a very thin craft knife. So let's jump in and start getting this stripped down. You might want to do this the day before if you're removing these wheels. They're going to be corroded, I can guarantee it, unless they've had replacement wheels at some point. But looking at the state of this machine, I'd say it's pretty old and it hasn't had new wheels for a while, but we'll see. So get your Stanley knife or your craft knife, because the hubcaps on the Tradition are removable and you can reuse them. So you're just going to place your craft knife in there and lift and lift, and out that comes. So you can reuse these, you can polish them up. So we're going to look at polishing them up because I'm not sure how available these are going to be. We do want some new wheels. This has got a new screen by the looks of it, so the front wheels might not be too bad, but just to be safe, because they might just be corroded, we can get our CRC and we're just going to spray that and leave that for at least an hour or overnight. Now you want to flip it over so it doesn't leak. On my towel, I'm going to put that back in. We're going to flip that over and we're going to repeat that on the other side. Now if you've got an old bench, you can leave the caps off. I've just put them back on just to keep that CRC, stop it making a mess. Back one's exactly the same. And now we'll leave that for around an hour. So an hour has passed, bolts have been soaking. I did flip it over the other way, so I've just flipped it back so at least it's soaked on both sides. This should work, so that's not budging. So the next option is an impact driver. Now you're not going to go full pelt with this because it's going to round that off. Now what I find with impact drivers, just tap the trigger and go lightly, because you'll have that impact and the resistance and you don't want to round the screw off. There we go. And it released. So you can see from the bolt there's a bit of corrosion there, but if we'd have tried to use the hand screwdriver, it would have rounded it off. And if we'd have gone full pelt, we would have rounded it off. They are rounded off. What you can do, and I did this on a Heritage, spray it with the CRC, leave it to soak, and then drill this out with a drill when it's rounded off. And then what you can do is get a sausage screwdriver, whack it in, turn it, and it will move a little bit. Then you get some grips and just turn it around. It will release. But what you don't want to do is damage the thread. So like I said, the easiest way is definitely the CRC, or if you have to and you've rounded it off, just drill the center, not fully, because you do want something to grip to remove it. If you're not reusing the wheels and you've got some new ones, fair enough, you can cut the wheel off and then attack that with your grips. But other than that, it will come out pretty easy if you drill the head out and then release it. So that's one off. Right, so now we've got the front axle removed. We're going to remove the safety switch first, purely because those wires go through and I don't want to end up snagging them or forgetting about them when I take this apart. So that's the best option, is to take this out. Now for that, you're going to need your Phillips and you're going to need a skewer of some description or something really thin to poke into those wires. You'll see what I mean when you want to release them. Now just be gentle when you pull that out. We've got two wires, so you've got your red and your white. Now what it is like a pinch connection, so you're just going to push that in and that should release that red one. So push that in and out comes the red one, and then we find the white one. So you're just going to go just in front of it, push it in and release, and that's your safety switch. Now you may have to look at this, because what I have noticed is it is sticking a little bit. It's not returning, it's just sticking. So we'll come to that in a following video. So now to get the back off, you've got 5 bolts. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the moment doesn't look too bad. It's quite dusty and dirty inside. Probably should have wore gloves. So my advice is wear gloves when taking these apart. We're going to take all this out and the armature as well, give it all a good clean in there, because after 40 years it's going to be pretty nasty. Let's have a look at the brushes first and then we'll take the fan off. So the brushes don't look that worn actually, so that's not too bad. It's had those brushes probably not recently, years ago, and then obviously they stopped using it. We'll flip the other one over. The plastic cover on this one. So again, get your slotted screwdriver, push that down. Don't have your head over it because it is spring loaded. Put your finger over it to release it, and out that comes. So yeah, brushes wise, they don't look any shorter than new ones. We'll check that when we come to put some new ones in anyway. Now we'll release the fan. So to release the front, you've got 1 screw here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've got 5. Look at the base, it's a bit corroded in here. We'll get this with the buffer outside. I'll get all this corrosion out. It has eaten away a little bit at the aluminium, the corrosion, but we'll get this nice and smooth. That should improve the airflow quite a bit as well, just by polishing this up. A bit like a gas flowed head on a car. Now looking at the fan doesn't look too bad, apart from the fact that it is grey. Got a few dinks on here. It's been caught, a bit of corrosion here as well. Now to release the fan, we're going to be using a pair of mole grips and a Torx 15 sensor slide through there quite nicely. Before we do that, we're going to want to spray it with some CRC. Now this I'm going to spray and I'm going to leave it overnight, purely because if there is corrosion in there, it's going to take quite a while to release. So we'll come back to that in 24 hours. Right, so it's 24 hours later. We're going to grab our fan and, fingers crossed, grab our Torx 15. Just hold that really tight and just give it a sharp snap. Oh, there we go. And luckily, that's released. Now the fan should come off as well, so pull that off. But keep this, because if you haven't got a replacement one, you want to keep this one. If you've ordered a Generation Series fan, it will fit exactly the same. It's just the spindle or the spline that is different length. So just make sure you keep this if you haven't ordered the correct one. Just had that soaking overnight. Obviously don't grab the thread. Just want to grab just above the thread and just going to hold that, and that fan should wiggle off so far. Okay, now hopefully it should just pull off now, because the CRC's released it, and off it comes. Well, so that's pretty clean in there. It looks like it's been greased at some point. Probably could do with a re-grease as well. Now we're going to release the light fitting. Right, so it's been around 20 minutes, so it's time to release these screws. Release that, we're just going to push these wires up, give it a bit of a wiggle, and out that comes. Right, now to give us a little bit of leeway, I've opened this just to feed these wires through. The last time I took these out, they were just a pain to get back in. It's entirely up to you if you remove them. I just like to feed that through as much as I can without damaging the wire. But now we're going to release the motor, and then all we're going to do is release this. So if that's stuck on, spray it with some CRC, which I've just done, and I'm just going to pull it, and off that comes. Now you can get a rubber mallet to hit this. I haven't got one with me at the moment, so I will be using the back of the hammer so I don't damage the thread, just to release that if it doesn't come out. We've got 4 screws here, and we've got an earth screw here. Okay, so we're going to do the earth screw first. Now this might be pretty stiff. We can give it a wiggle first, see if it's going to go, which I don't think it is. So we're just going to give that a light tap. Give that a wiggle. And out that comes. So inside, that's pretty, okay, so we can get that cleaned out. With your armature, when you pull your armature out, obviously you're still attached with these 2 wires. So if you can release them, it's entirely up to you. But I'm going to pull your armature out. There's a little washer. So if you find a washer, it's the one that goes in the back, exactly the same as what you get on the G series with that little spring clip at the back. But looking at the armature, that doesn't look too bad. There's no real bad grooves in there. So that armature's pretty good. So looking at it now, you can see how nasty and dirty it is inside there. So that's why I suggest wearing gloves. We're going to give this all a bit of a clean out. We're going to repack this bearing here, and we're going to repack the bearing on the back of here as well. So we'll get this all cleaned, and then we'll come back to it in the next episode. Now don't forget everything used in the video today. There are links in the description below for the best place to get those Kirby products. Make sure you check those out at the end of this video. So to enjoy that strip down of that Kirby edition, as you can see, it was really bad on the inside. I'm not sure how long it was before that was took apart, but it was really disgusting. Now if you want to check out the video when I reassemble my Kirby Classic 3, check out this video. And if you want to know how to service your Kirby, check out this video. So thanks for watching, happy cleaning, and I'll catch you next one.